And now, you're tuned into RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's Reveler Sports.
Hi, everybody. You're listening to your RBLR Rays podcast. I am Ben here, and with me, filling in for Zach again, is Eureka. How's it going, Eureka? Good morning.
Always good. Another wonderful day in Tampa Bay, whether it rains or not, which it seems to just like monsoon out of nowhere nowadays.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like, whenever I'm at work, at the school, and it rains like that, the kids just have to run around and scream as loud as possible for some reason. Like, they just can't. And, like, I get it. Like, they've lived in Florida their whole lives pretty much, so they've all seen rain before. But for some reason, they have to do it every time. So it's really fun. I love that. And then they walk into the classroom, get the floor all wet. It's great.
Yeah, the best thing's been, it's just this nice day, and then all of a sudden it's just like the wall of darkness envelops my entire, like, wherever I'm at, and then it's just thunderstorms, and I don't know, it's pretty fun. Fun little apocalypse for about 20-30 minutes, and then it goes away.
Yeah, it's been weird for sure. But yeah, great week of baseball here. We went 5-1 since the last time we recorded, so that's gonna play. Like, that's awesome. That's gonna help us chase the division there. So,
well, that's the other thing too. It's all been Yankees and Red Sox games, and just a sea of green. Other than a 2-1 loss that we'll talk about later. But like beating Boston, beating New York, Ben, you have to be like the happiest boy in the world here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Especially after last night when they just, I mean, it was 4-0 or 4-1, was it? No, 4-2.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a
4-2
blowout, but that was the most blowout feeling 2-run win I've ever seen. Like, they were just they were not feeling it. The Yankees weren't. So it was awesome.
Well, we need it. I mean, we talked about this the last time I was on, but it's over the next month, right? We talked at the beginning of September. It was going to be the Yankees. It's going to be the Red Sox. It's going to be the Blue Jays. Then there's a little bit of a break, and then it's right back to Blue Jays, a couple of things, and then Red Sox. So, like, this time right now is the perfect time for both all of our agendas and our morale to just be whooping the Yankees as they like, yeah, you're holding first place right now, but Daddy's coming home,
Oh yeah, it's a great time for the Rays to be hot right now. And it's also a great time for anybody listening to, like, subscribe, follow us on our social medias, subscribe wherever you're listening to this too, become an organ donor on the same website. I don't know, figure it out. Yeah, but just thank you for listening, and, share this with some people so we can keep spreading the good word of the Rays baseball, Eric Neander gospel. So.
What do you want to get into first? I think there's a lot of topics to get into, but maybe the biggest one is the rule changes that are not being implemented immediately, but are causing all the uproar these days.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like, there are some big changes coming for the 2023 season, and all of them. I mean, I don't want to say I love all of them, but all of them are going to make the game pretty interesting. So I'm excited to see how the Rays, navigate that.
We haven't looked at, or at least even in our chat, I don't know if you've been doing enough to decide on your spreadsheet, but like when we've been acquiring these pitchers, if they're like, and maybe I'll take a little bit more of a look now into it, but like if they take a lot of time in between pitches, or if they're just gonna be okay being more like, all right, we got to go, because there's gonna be an adjustment period for sure. Of guys who like to sit there and take a breath and put a substance on the ball and eat a sandwich and then throw another pitch, versus like guys who just want to like get 27 outs in 1 hour. Let's go. There's going to be a divide, I think, with some of these pitchers in the league.
Yeah, I think so. And I don't know if the Rays have anybody that's like too slow. I think they're like as a team, I think they're all pretty above average with their tempo. So I don't really think the pitch clock is going to affect them in that way and like speeding up the routines. But yeah, I mean, like, maybe for like pitcher stamina, because getting a little bit of a break between pitches might be good for them. I don't know all the science behind that though.
Well, technically, like I was going to say, let's look into the rule they're changing. So the pitch clock, there's basically 30 seconds between each hitter, and once the pitcher, like the catcher has to be in the box within 10 seconds or 9 seconds, and they have to basically be ready and alert, I believe is what the word said. But the pitcher can still step off the rubber during an at bat, but they can only do that twice. And once they do, they're only going to have 15 seconds to throw another pitch if there's no base runners, or they get an additional 5 seconds if there happens to be a base runner. So I haven't looked at the data to see like what is the average, like what's the average seconds in between pitches in the league. But they're these very specific numbers. I don't know how much of an increase, although Major League Baseball says that game time was reduced by about 26 minutes with these with implementing these rules in the minor leagues. So 2.5 hours of baseball versus 3 hours of baseball, not including Manfred time. But I don't know. Are you looking forward to an extra 26 minutes of your day?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I can go to bed like, half an hour earlier, so I can live with that. I wish the start times would be just a bit earlier for some of those
Mm,
night games, but it's fine.
yeah.
The thing about the pitch clock though that I think is going to make the biggest impact is the pickoff limit, or I guess we could call it a pickoff limit because that's what it really is. Like
Yeah.
you get, two tries to pick a guy off. And then the third try, if you don't pick him off, it's a balk and they get to go to the next base. So like, um, yeah. So what I saw on Twitter from the Driveline guy, Kyle Bodie, I don't know how to say it. Sorry if you're listening. I don't know if he is. Maybe. I'm sure he is. But anyways, he said that when he was the Reds minor league like pitching coordinator, what they did was with right-handed pitchers, because it's such a rare thing to pick a guy off, they just didn't even have him worry about the pickoff with the pickoff limit. So like they just would pretty much forget about the runner at first if you're a right-handed pitcher
Yeah.
and just focus on the hitter, and have a couple different times excuse me, a couple different times, like varying to the home plate, like with your delivery. So, the runner can't get a great read. But I think we've kind of seen the Rays pitchers do that to some extent this past, actually, like the whole season, really, where they almost look disinterested in controlling the run game. And it's not because they are just not interested. It's probably because they're getting ready for that actual situation that's going to happen next year. Like even now, statistically, like you're rarely going to pick a guy off as a right-handed pitcher. Like, yeah, you can keep him a bit closer to the base, but I think a lot more of it is on the catcher than we initially thought. So, the Rays went out and acquired two of the hardest throwing catchers, or yeah, two of the hardest throwing catchers in the league, with Mejia a couple of years ago and now Bethancourt this year, who is the hardest throwing catcher. So the Rays are kind of prepared for that pickoff limit heading into next year.
Well, and then that's a good segue into the next rule, because that was a topic I think that kind of is a narrative over all of this, is that the Rays have been preparing for this. I mean, you brought this up on Twitter, that they're kind of ahead of the curve, and hopefully no one else can figure it out before we do. But on the offensive side now, not only is it going to be a little bit easier now that the pitchers only have so many attempts, but now the bases are actually larger. So maybe if you have a really good defensive shortstop, right? Maybe you're getting to the bag quicker because it's now 3 inches bigger. For 15 inches before, now it's an 18-inch square base, which means there's technically less inches in between the base paths, but also more playability for defenders to get to the bag. But also, man, this has really seen an increase according to Major League Baseball. There's been less injuries and more base running activity. There's been more stolen bases, more attempted stolen bases, because of these all of these rules, the pitch clock, but also the larger bases.
Yeah, any rule change that encourages or is beneficial for player safety, like I'm 100% all for it. I wish they would have had this in 2015 when KK would break his thumb like every other day sliding in the
Mm,
second, but
yeah.
it's fine. At least we have it now. But I'm really excited about this because there are going to be so many more stolen base attempts. And we've seen the Rays, they've been really, really aggressive on the bases this year. And, you know, preparing for a rule change is going to take more than like a 5-week session in spring training. Like you can practice on the backfields all you want, but like the actual game experience is what matters. So like
Yeah.
they've been preparing the whole year for this with their aggression, and it's still paying off because run expectancy, a bunch of nerd stuff, blah blah blah. They're still productive, like they have a net positive, like run value with their aggression, but the added benefit of this is that they are probably more prepared than any other team for the rule changes with the pickoff limit and the larger bases. So I think we're experiencing a bit of a down year this year with the base running, which is fair to say because they have been thrown out, I think, the most on the bases, but they've still been at a net positive, which is fine, and they are very prepared for next year. So yeah, I like this rule change, and I like how the Rays are getting ready for it.
Well, I think too, on a flip side, to trying to be an optimist here about because I know for a fact, like I think Zach's brought it up on Twitter, or maybe even on the show about like kind of being disappointed in the outs. Well, and I think Darby Robinson, I think, brought it up, or someone brought it up about like, oh no, it was Carter from the Bucks podcast here on the network. He was bringing up that like we are either second in outs above average or something, like it was a negative base running stat. And this has been a narrative on out there on the interwebs that we're too aggressive and we're like, especially like Randy and just getting too many outs, things like that. But from a Kevin Cash standpoint, though, you can always lay off the base running. Like you can always say, okay, we won't steal anymore. Like, but if you've been putting it in your team's mind to be more aggressive, it's harder to say, okay, now we're going to steal, like in the playoffs, say, okay, now this is always a threat because this is what we do. If we turn doubles into, or we turn singles into run scoring opportunities, especially if you've got Siri on the bases. If you have Randy on second, pretty much anything that gets out of the infield is going to be an RBI, right? So because of this aggression, because of yes, we're seeing a little bit more outs here and there, and we're being caught in some situations, they're either going to A, get better at base running, or B, have better opportunities, or C, have more of a threat, a perceived threat, which could mess with pitchers' heads and things like that in close games that we will see in the postseason from an optimistic standpoint. The only downside, I guess, is if they just don't turn off the faucet and they don't learn from their mistakes and they don't do any of those things. But I think it's more likely that practice makes perfect.
Yeah, I especially like the part about it creating the threat, because now other teams are like, okay, we got to get the ball in quickly. We can't afford to, like take our time getting the ball out of the gap, like away from the wall. So yeah, I think it's going to just put pressure on the other team's defense just because they're aware of how aggressive the Rays are. And on top of that, like they're still pretty productive and they've gotten better operating under this same like paradigm where, Randy was flirting with like the break even point all season, but recently he's been pulling away from that with his stolen base production. So yeah, I think, they realistically, if they really were like, wow, this is a huge problem, we need to cut it back, they could, because they're not stupid. They're probably one of the smartest, sports organizations in the world. But they know that what they're doing is working and it's preparing them for next year and it creates the perceived threat like you were talking about. So it's like there's no reason not to be that aggressive at this point.
Yeah. Well, speaking of aggression, one way that the defenses have been so aggressive and the Rays have been like always the forefront of this was the shift. Pretty much everyone's over it. Maybe not the players because they voted against this, but like the shift is pretty much getting banned next season. People are blaming the shift for low league-wide batting average and low batting average on balls in play and things like that. But maybe banning the shift is going to just create this waterfall of offensive production. But it's a little. This is the one I probably have the worst problem with. Bases, sure, make them a little bigger. I get it. The players have changed. Maybe that. The time is a problem for more casual fans and things like that. I get it. We need to make the game quicker. The shift, though, I think it's a truly good like this was an evolution of defense, like strategic baseball playing is for all the people that hate like the DH versus like the purity of the game. Like, shifting, putting players in defensive places is an innovation on defense that I love. However, going forward, basically, the rules says that there must be a minimum of 4 defenders, other than the pitcher and catcher, with their feet within the outer boundary of the infield dirt. Okay. Upon release of the pitch, there must be 2 infielders on each side of second base. So you can't have 3 on one side, 1 on the other. And the team must designate 2 infielders for each side of second base, and they cannot switch. So, like, if you have Taylor Walls at short, you can't be like, oh, well, now he's at second base for this at bat, and now he's back to shortstop for the next at bat. Like, you have to designate, okay, this is your left side defender and your right side defender. Am I wrong? Is this an overcorrection? Is this just like, to me, it just seems like we're getting crazy here. Maybe the shifts have been getting crazy, but like, maybe there's more than just the shift to blame for bad batting right now.
Right. And I mean, this rule feels like it's specifically targeted at the Rays because they were the team that's like started doing the extreme shifting before anybody else. So it's like, okay, you're hating on innovation, which is dumb in like a conceptual kind of way. But like, I mean, this really only affects like, I don't even want to say half of like left-handed batters, because like right-handed batters, they don't really get shifted that much anyways, very rarely. So they're not going to experience any benefit or negative effect of the shift. But like Brandon Lau, Ji-Man Choi, like those guys are pretty pull-happy left-handed hitters who would get shifted fairly extreme. So they'll get a benefit from that. But it really doesn't, like, banning the shift just encourages left-handed batters to sell out for power. So you're going to get more strikeouts. You're going to get more like 3 true outcomes. And that's, baseball has said, like, they want to move away from that. They want more balls in play. They want exciting stuff. Well, then why are you banning the shift? Because like that, it doesn't make sense. But now I'm excited to see like what kind of innovation the Rays are going to pull out of their hat now with the shift ban. Like the rule says they have to be on the infield dirt. Well, how far back is the infield dirt going to extend now? Like,
Exactly.
Make the whole outfield dirt. Like if the whole outfield is dirt, they could be wherever they want. Technically, like that's the rule. So you better get real specific with those terms and conditions out there and at the bottom of the rule book, because or who's to say they don't run like a 2-man outfield with like one of the outfielders playing in shallow right field when a left-handed batter is playing. So like then you got like your 3 guys on the right side of the bag. You got a couple outfielders and Jose Siri and Manuel Margot who can, go out and get it. They're some of the rangiest outfielders out there. So, yeah, the league better be careful what they wish for here. It's like I think it's the monkey's paw, right? Where you wish for something and it's like you get it, but then there's that side effect that you clearly didn't think of, because this was very poorly thought out. But what else could we expect from Major League Baseball?
Yeah, again, it's like, you literally are trying to get addition by subtraction. You're trying to subtract defensive innovation to increase offensive production, versus like, well, guys, this has been the biggest critique is like, well, if you don't want 7 dudes down the third base line, well, then learn how to hit to the right, or figure it out, but again, it's more than just batting average for left-handed hitters that we're trying to like kill a fly with a flamethrower with this kind of stuff, where I'm just like, this is an overreaction to something that I didn't think was that big of a problem to begin with, and I think it's annoying. Sure, it's weird for television, and it isn't traditional, and oh my God, we need to reject modernity and embrace tradition, or whatever the meme is. It's like, guys, this is just, it's not fun. I don't know. I think this is just like spinning yarn that is bad for baseball overall, and we'll see. I mean, I don't know. I'm all about creating the chaos, like you just what you just envisioned, just make an entire dirt outfield, just the warning track is green, and that'd be great. But yeah, we'll see. Man, I don't know how do the Rays, do you think, how do the Rays benefit from this? I guess is there a defensive way that they can overcome this? I mean, because it's supposed to put the defense in a more a less advantageous position. But other than just like you would talk about left-handed hitters, but I don't get like, I don't get what makes this better for baseball overall. Like it doesn't make it quickens the game because of defensive like substitutions. I'm befuddled. I am befuddled.
It really doesn't do anything to improve the game, but this is another rule change, like we said with the other ones, where the Rays are prepared for it. Like they went out and got Jose Siri. They've been drafting a middle infielder in like every round of the draft for the past 3 years. So they've got, plenty of rangy guys in the system who can play, shortstop and second. So they're prepared for this. Taylor Walls has probably the best range out of any shortstop. I know his arm is kind of like his one, downfall as a defender, but even that's not too bad. But still, he's super rangy. Brandon Lau probably won't be playing second much next year because he isn't very rangy, but Vidal Brujan is, Xavier Edwards is, Wander Franco to an extent could probably be one of the more like rangy second basemen on the roster. So like they've been preparing. They've got so many outfielders who just have fantastic jumps. And if you're going to run a 2 outfielder alignment and try to beat the shift that way, or beat the shift ban that way, they could really do that. So they've got tons of options. I'm sure they've already, planned out defensive alignments in the front office. So I'm excited to see what they do because it's going to be interesting, but this is it's a dumb rule change. Like you're not pleasing anybody with this and you're not making the game any better.
Well, what would make the game a lot better is that if all of us fans, if all of us could band together and unite under just one cause, and that cause could probably be buying a t-shirt from shop.rblrsports.com. Everyone can agree that it is awesome to save some money, so there's even a promo code. There's a link right in the description. If you use the promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY, you could choose any of the cool designs that are on our website. Man, we have stuff that celebrates the Rays, the Rowdies, the Bucks, the Lightning, the all the fandom that is Tampa Bay. Part of the experience, part of the fan culture is this cool art that we have created here. So just hit on there. There's a little link right there. Any of the shirts, you could use the promo code FLAPPY, FLAPPY, and get 10% off your entire order. So it would help all of us out. It would definitely pay for a drink or two here at the office that could make these rule changes make a little bit more sense. But I can't wait a year from now. We'll mark this down. A year from now, we'll talk about how like we're just killing the game even more and better with all these rule changes, and we can do so in a cool t-shirt from shop.rblrsports.com. Mr. Whitelaw, enough about rule changes, man. What we haven't even talked about the baseball that we've played this week. We've been talking about the future and how the Rays are ready for that future. But what would you like to bring up this week about some of the awesome baseball we saw?
Part of it is like we're getting healthy again. Like we were hurt, we got healthy, then we got hurt a bit again. Now we're getting healthy again. So we got Yanni, Brandon Lau, Wander all making their returns to the big league team. Tyler Glasnow started his rehab. He looks pretty decent. We lost Matt Whistler and Yu Chang. We DFA'd him, but it is what it is. But yeah, we came off a really nice series beating the Yankees, swept the Red Sox at home, and now we went out and took the first of 3 in New York. We're like, if we sweep, like we're basically we're like virtually tied for first. Like we've played a few less games than the Yankees, so it's like, yeah, that part of it. But like we'd be tied in the loss column, which would be huge. So I don't know, any things that stood out to you this week?
It was just a good overall. Like, I loved getting Wander Franco back. That was just a nice shot in the arm. And really, it's just we've even made the memes about it. Just wait. Like we've been saying that for so long, and now we're finally getting. I mean, the big name Wander Franco, but we're just kind of seeing that the bullpen is going to be super deep. We're going to see that now we've got hopefully some power in the lineup again with even more with Wander Franco. Because it wasn't like we were bad without these guys, and now it's just better. These are the acquisitions that we were talking about at the trade deadline. These are the guys that we've been waiting to come back, and there's even more on the way. It just seems like it's the right place and the right time for all this to converge, and we're getting wins. We're getting great pitching performances. The guys are coming through. We're not seeing a lot of the super big offensive production like we've seen in a couple weeks, but we're pulling out 1-run games, and that's awesome. So, man, that's kind of my overall about the week, is that like we had some good, we scored 8 runs in a couple games, but it was winning the close games where it was close, and then we explode, or it's close. We maybe strike early, and then we shut the door just with good pitching. So it's just more and more and more and more encouraging as we just like what was the meme? It's the Yankees are driving a car, and there's like in the rearview mirror you just see the Rays coming up closer and closer and closer, because
Right.
I don't know if they could stop us. I mean, we're technically 3.5 back, but really we're only 2 back in the loss column. Well, and the games we play, that's a Toronto or a Houston or a Cleveland, win out of nowhere that maybe at the end of the season that we can pick up those couple extra games while New York's just sitting there watching us pass them by. So.
Yeah, no, it's really nice to be gaining on the Yankees, and I did want to touch on the pitching that you mentioned. The Rays allowed 12 runs in 6 games this week. Like that's
Amazing.
they went 5-1. Like they were close in that one loss, but like if you allow 2 runs a game, you're going to be in every single game, no matter what. And now you've got Brandon Lau back, who seems pretty healthy. Like his swings looked healthy. You got Wander, who first pitch of the game or first pitch of his at bat, like 104 mph double to the gap. Like it's going to be a really fun final month of baseball here, and it's not going to be fun for the Yankees because they are getting injured. They're not fully healthy. They do have some guys who are working their way back, but they're not looking great, like in terms of their roster construction, and the Rays are taking advantage of that. So hopefully, a sweep would be ideal here, obviously, because you want to win every single game in a baseball season. But like, losing one game in this series, it kind of, I don't want to say it stops their chances of taking the division, but like the Yankees have a very easy schedule the rest of the way, and if they play like 500, they'll probably win the division. I don't think they will because they're so bad and fraudulent, but like a sweep here really like that changes everything. So,
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt if they don't sweep. Like they're still going to make the playoffs, but like if they do sweep, it's going to be awesome. I'm excited.
Well, if the pitching just keeps continuing, I mean, we could bring up a lot of people, but maybe I'll ask you, who's your bat and arm of the week?
Just to continue that pitching we're talking about here, Drew Rasmussen last night, he had the best start of his life. Like I know he had the almost perfect game a while ago, but this was like in terms of like pure performance, he's never done anything like this. So he did innings, which isn't his longest start, but he had a negative 0.22 FIP, a 41.7% 41.7 strikeout rate, which was 10 strikeouts in 6 innings. He had a 70.6 zone contact rate. So like he was getting swing and miss in the zone, which we've never really seen that from Rasmussen. He had a 37% whiff rate overall and a career high 22 whiffs. Like this is like peak Rasmussen. And I think if it was like, if he didn't have so many innings right now, they probably would have let him go 7, maybe start the 8th. just phenomenal stuff from a new dad here. So it was awesome. Great job for Rasmussen.
What do you think the keys to his rise have been this year? You've mentioned a little bit about his cutter, and maybe being a little bit more confident in the curveball. Is it what's going on? Why is Rasmussen just all of a sudden just becoming an ace?
So it definitely starts with the cutter. Like basically it's his third best pitch, but it's such a it's so okay. So backing up here, his fastball and his slider, they're great pitches, but they look totally different out of the hand. So like it's really you're not fooling anybody. Like when you're throwing a fastball, they see, okay, this is like 95 and it's up. I know it's a fastball. When they see 85 and it's down and away, they're like, okay, this is a slider. I don't have to worry about it. But that cutter kind of like bridges the gap, and it makes all three of his pitches look the same. Cause like, even though you're just adding one pitch, it's okay, the fastball and cutter look the same, but there's the velocity difference and a difference in the break. But then the slider and the cutter look the same too. So it's like that pitch has been like a miracle pitch for him. I know it's pretty popular in like, pitching theory now to like add a cutter because it helps you tunnel everything. And it's true because Rasmussen is a beneficiary of that. So the next step would be to sprinkle that curveball. He only threw like 2 or 3 of them yesterday. They were decent, but once he's confident in that curve and he can throw it for a strike every once in a while and then drop it out of the zone, he's going to be, easily a third time through the order kind of guy, because right now he's still like 2 times through. He's at, I want to say like a 325 FIP first and second time through. I don't know the exact number. I'm thinking off the top of my head, but then third time he's like 5.5 FIP. So it's like they can pick up on it a third time. So he just needs one more pitch. He doesn't even have to like throw it that much or be that good. He just has to be confident in it, and he's getting there for sure.
I know I'm asking, this is way ahead of time, but one of the theories that you've been working on is about, guys that you need the quality innings out of. Do you think that Rasmussen right now is really going to just be deployed like in 5 innings, maybe 6 in a playoffs, where you just don't want to have him go through the third time like at all, no matter what?
I think he could be used that way, but I think he might actually get used less just because he's already so high above his previous career high in innings pitched of like 87 last season. He's up to like, I think like 120 now, which is like, that's a lot, especially for a guy who has had Tommy John surgery at least once. He might have had it twice in his life. So yeah, I don't know exactly on the 2 Tommy John surgeries, so don't quote me on that. But like, he's got an injury history, and yes, he's looking good. He looks healthy, and the Rays aren't going to do anything to like sabotage him. Even if they really want innings because he's so good, they're not going to just overuse him. So I'm going to trust what they do, but I'm also skeptical that like, okay, I don't know if he'll go more than like 2-3 innings in a playoff game, because realistically he's just going to run out of gas eventually. But right now he looks great, so good for him.
All right. Who's your bat of the week?
I was gonna go with Mejia just because he had the better WRC plus. He had the same amount of WAR as the guy that I picked, and he had a higher OPS, but like he only had like 11 plate appearances, so it's like yeah, it was just smaller volume. So I went with Randy. When you're able to sustain a 208 WRC plus for like, what was it, like 24, 25 plate appearances, like that's impressive. He sets the tone at the beginning of games. You need that right now when you're on the road in New York. You got to come out swinging. You got to get that crowd out of it. If they'll still throw baseballs on the field and try to injure the players, whatever, because Yankees fans are going to be Yankees fans. But like, if you come out swinging, you come out hot, get the crowd out of it, especially on Derek Jeter night or whatever that was yesterday, something stupid. It was great. I love Randy setting the tone.
Yeah, I think Randy. I mean, look, we were talking about this off air, but it's like Diaz had another great week. Bethancourt had a good time at the plate. Not that's super amazing, but I think he did great. But even guys like Peralta, I'm trying to think who else was. Mejia was just bonkers, but a short sample size. Yu Chang, thank you for your service. He was killer for a few games that he played this week. It was just good to see. I mean, even like Aranda and Wander in one game was just phenomenal. Like he came back with a vengeance, already killing it. So it was just a good week overall in the aggregate of guys just racking up extra base hits. And even if you're looking at traditional stats, like they're driving in runs, people are getting on base and they're getting driven in. So it's like, whether you want to look at it small ball or even in the extended numbers, it's just like, it was a really good week all the way around. But I'm not gonna disagree with Randy Rosarena literally doing twice as good as the average baseball player right now. So
yeah,
and just filling up every stat, like extra base hits, runs, ribbies, you name it, he's doing it. So
it's been exciting. Like hitting it's contagious, and honestly, the Rays are if that's true, then the Rays definitely like have the flu or something right now, because they're firing on all cylinders. So it's great, and to do that on Derek Jeter night yesterday or whatever it was, like that's awesome. But respect to the Yankees. Derek Jeter, he wore number 2, so they went out and scored 2 runs in his honor and lost the game. So great stuff there.
I guess one of the last things I was going to bring up is with all the great stats that we've been talking about, a number of guys, there's one man who isn't doing so hot, and that's Ji-Man Choi, who I think you had brought up a really good stat that he's just not having a good second half.
No, he's really not. And I know that he's been battling injuries a little bit. I listened to the Neil Solon's podcast. I think it was like last week or 2 weeks ago that he talked to Chad Matola, and he said Choi's been battling some stuff. So it makes sense. And then the inconsistent playing time is also going to be like, tricky for a guy who, typically those pull heavy power hitters, they kind of need consistent playing time to be successful. So Choi was going to, get, hurt because of that. So he's dealing with injuries. Then he has inconsistent playing time, which makes him a little cold, which is fine. And then on top of that, he's getting so unlucky. Like, he is statistically, out of all the players in the second half who have seen at least 400 pitches, he is the most unlucky hitter in terms of like difference between expected weighted on base average and his actual weighted on base average. So like his is like 88 points. The next closest is like 62 is the difference. So it's like, it sucks because he's really like fine. He's starting to, snap out of it mentally, where he's just taking more pitches. He's not trying to do too much. I know he was out trying to stretch a single into a double yesterday, but again, that's like a run expectancy thing. Like you've got 2 outs, and if you have 2 outs, a runner on first versus 2 outs, a runner on second, you double your run expectancy. So just try to take that extra base when the outfielder doesn't know how to catch the ball and he bobbles it. So I'm totally fine with him, staying aggressive, even if he's not that fast, but he'll be fine. The only thing is, like, he just needs to get fine before the playoffs. So, like, yeah, because he's going to be needed. Like, you need a strong, patient first baseman like him. He really slows the game down. He's got a great glove, so like he's going to play most days because of his defense. And yeah, I just hope he, gets back into it, because he's really fine. He's just unlucky for the most part now that he's healthy.
Is there anything else you wanted to get into? I didn't really want to. I don't think really needed to go game by game. I think we brought up a lot of the good points. I think we draw a lot of the good conclusions. You got Klubs going today in an early game here on Saturday as we record. So hopefully you're listening to this before the game. But yeah, Klubs playing here, and then even Sunday it's another matinee game around 1:30. So we get to watch some baseball and then live our lives. Maybe watch the Rowdies game tonight too. So
yeah, definitely.
Was there any other big topic you wanted to talk about before we get out of here?
McClanahan's looking fine. Doing some bullpen work. Like he's literally fine. Wander Franco is also fine, clearly. Even though I know there was I'm doing air quotes here, an injury scare with Wander. He like shattered a bone in his hand. It makes sense if he's sore every once in a while. It's okay. It's okay to be sore. It's okay for McClanahan to be sore, throwing a career high in innings pitched. Like, just enjoy the baseball. don't read too much into it. Don't go to mayoclinic.com or whatever. Like, just chill out. Not you specifically. I'm just like talking to people in general.
Ben Whitelaw, don't you look at my search history, buddy. I'll do what I want, sir. If I bookmark the Mayo Clinic, then you know what? That's between me and my Google Chrome. Well, hey man, I always love sitting here talking baseball with you, man. This was good. I think it's a good time to be a Rays fan. I think it's a great week. New York and Boston wins. Hopefully, we're getting sweeps, and next week we're talking about even more AL East, because like this is a big week coming up, man. Two more New York games, and then we start a 5-game series against the Toronto Blue Jays. And what's good is we're doing all this on the road too. So I'm hoping. I guess. Do you still think there's going to be roster shenanigans going up north of the border?
Yeah, I think, I don't know who exactly we're going to, see get left off the roster, but
yeah,
it's kind of a blessing in disguise. Like, we're going to get to see some non-40-man guys come up and throw some innings. Maybe it's in garbage time. Maybe they're meaningful. Who knows? But it'll definitely help keep the bullpen a little bit more fresh. So I'm not, condoning some of the things that are going on, but like, there's always going to be some kind of advantage somewhere. So, exploit it.
Well, we're gonna need every little bit if we're even gonna sniff the AL East championship. So,
right.
Hey, if these are the rules and they're set in front of us, don't be mad when we stretch that to the very, very limit. So, well, that's all the questions I had for you, man. This was you. I just keep throwing them at you. You keep knocking them out of the park, man. This is amazing.
No, this was great. You always do a great job with these, so appreciate it.
Well, the last thing I'll say is thank you to every one of you listening to this and for subscribing to us on whatever app you're listening to it. If there's a little review or a like button, make sure you hit that. Give us that 5-star review, because I hope that, you've been Whitelaw here, giving you a 5-star performance every single week. Zach Blaine killing it. The Rowdies podcast, the Bucks, we're week 1 is this week. We just had our review or preview of week 1 against Dallas Cowboys. The Lightning, it's less than a month away until we have the Lightning literally playing real games again. It just seems like yesterday that they were taking the Avalanche to the limit in the Stanley Cup Finals. So like every week, there is no off season for RBLR. We are bringing this to you every single week with a. I'm gonna toot my own horn. I think that we've assembled a phenomenal staff for every sport, whichever you like. You're going to get good content. I only ask you one more thing, and that's on social media. If you're on Instagram or Twitter, or Facebook, we are at RBLR Sports. And we're trying to give you content every single day, every single game, every single week. So for you, look, we're really trying our best, and I really, really appreciate that you take your time out of your day to listen to us. So I'll get off the soapbox. Mr. Whitelaw, last word for you, sir, before we get out of here.
Go for the sweep. Kevin Cash is going to be aggressive with the bullpen, so we can go for the sweep and kill the Yankees. Go Rays.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.